So now what do I do? Well, I guess there's only one thing. There's something I'd like to know. Are you real? Can you feel?
Hi friends, I'm Prairie Vintage. My name is Linda. I'm an energy intuitive reader here on YouTube. I use spirit and my intuition, the tarot, to communicate energies to you guys, fabulous viewers. If you guys are new to this channel, welcome. You guys found me. I hope you guys stay. For those of you guys returning, I'm so blessed to be doing your reading again today. You guys are all so very safe and welcome in this space with me today. Today's reading is a requested reading in regards to who is your divine counterpart. Who are you sort of meant to align with here? Now, I do want to put a big fat old trigger warning, okay? This big fat old trigger warning is that I read cards and energy. I don't want you to be with anyone who sucks, okay? That's not my intention. I want you to be with someone who's loving, caring, giving, compassionate, and invests in you, all right? But this isn't always the case. This isn't always what pulls through here energetically. And a lot of us have been on a twin flame type journey, okay, whether we want to call it twin flame or not. Whatever journey we've been on with shitty ass people who don't do what it is that makes us feel good. Now, what does this mean? This means that you have more healing to do. Now, you are perfect as you are, and wherever you're at, you don't need to do anything. But until you realize this, until you see this, until your shadows, triggers, fears aren't driving you, then you need more healing because you are surrounding yourself with people, places, things that aren't for your highest good. This has nothing to do with the tarot reader, the cards that come through. Okay, so Spirit knows that sometimes we're on journeys in a lifetime with certain people that will mirror to us soul growth. And that's really the whole purpose, is to grow, to be the best version of us, because Spirit knows our soul and all its transformation as it evolves and goes through lifetimes. It's a big picture, and we're seeing a tiny little snapshot of the shitty ass part with the shitty ass person. Okay, and I don't call people shitty ass, but it's shitty ass when we don't feel good. Okay, you can't get rid of a soul contract. You can't get rid of a twin flame. If it's over, it's most likely a karmic, a situation that's outlived its potential. I read soul connections that are most likely vibrating on a twin flame collective. You can't get rid of it. Okay, your twin flame ascends as you ascend, and they do become better versions of themselves. Now, it doesn't happen in ego's timing. It doesn't happen exactly when we want it to. Doesn't mean that that twin flame is not our person. Okay, our person struggling, our person also in shadow and trigger and trauma. Okay, and so if you really are connected to a twin flame, okay, now I use that label loosely, but a spiritual soul connection that won't go away with a person who is driving you bananas, that's up to Spirit and your soul contracts, nothing to do with me. And so although I do want to see new people here, I will ask to see the full potential here of that connection with your divine counterpart, the one you're supposed to sort of be with. But if it comes through as the person that you don't want to hear about, or the person in their shadow, that's how it comes through, so that you know who this person is. Okay, don't take it. Go to another pile. Don't watch my readings. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, I'm not going to suddenly make things up so that you could find new love, or try to sugarcoat things so we all feel good and sing kumbaya. I'm going to read what Spirit is pulling through here. And I always attempt to, when I do these readings, to bring you the highest possible message for your greatest good. And it mostly happens to be really intense and shitty people. I don't know why that is, I really don't. I'm just reading the energy and the frequency, and I do have a lot of people that are on a journey, and it's not fun. It sucks. It's draining, and you guys have healed, and you guys have done a lot of work. Okay, so I'm hoping and I'm asking Spirits to deliver in the highest potential. Who is your divine counterpart? Who's not going to be wasting your time here? That's who we want to see pull through. Okay, but I make zero guarantees. And if I see you convincing otherwise in the comments, I'm just going to timestamp it, boop, right over here, because you're only sort of talking to the wind. All right, beautiful angels. I love all of you guys very much. This reading, needless to say, is not going to be for every single person. Maybe you already know who the one is, okay? But we'll see. And so in order for you to know whether this is your pile or not, we're going to sort of do a you versus them again, like we did with yesterday's reading, and see how the connection will be between you and this divine counterpart person who is meant to be your person, or at least whose spirit's pulling through here. Okay, so we do have free will and conscious choice. Okay, but we can only stray a certain distance from what the divine is rolling out in front of you. You know, I always use the analogy of like hurricanes and like accidents that happen, and they're happening accidents because the divine rolls out whatever you're sort of fated to experience. And you have the decision to make choices based on what's being rolled out. And so if you're being put in front of someone that's mirroring something to you, it's for a very specific purpose. Okay, so my suggestion is always to reflect whatever is in your highest good back to these individuals. Love, compassion, forgiveness, acceptance. Okay, this doesn't mean be a doormat. This doesn't mean put up with suffering. This doesn't mean that you are in, you know, a victim's role with someone. No, if that's what you think this is, then not your reading. And I can't stress that enough. Okay, this is all about showing love and compassion, forgiveness for all of God's children, period, including yourself. And when you are not capable of loving yourself from that capacity, showing yourself forgiveness and strength, then you can't give that to another, because it's just you seeking from another to fulfill you. Okay, and when you seek from another to fulfill you, Spirit's going to keep putting people in front of you that aren't fulfilling, so that you can finally see what the main lesson is. It's all about self. Okay, the world is a mirror. It's reflecting back to you what's going on inside of you, always. Period. End of story. You want to see beautiful people, loving, giving, be loving, giving, compassionate, forgive everything and everyone. Okay, but tap into that in which you have within you first, not through a wannabe, but through a genuine connection of the divine that's running through you all the time, whether you see it or not. It's there. Okay, now do not invest lifetimes and lifetimes of shadow work and all of this type of stuff. You don't need to. You don't have to do any of that stuff. You're perfect as you are. Till you see this, know this, believe this, you're going to be on a hunt, seeking, never finding, because you don't believe it to be true. But you are already powerful. You are already whole and complete. It's not something you need to seek. It's not something that comes to you after a certain amount of time or knowledge or finding and seeking out there. No, it's in you. It's always been there. You have to see it. Okay, you could see it right now. It's there right now, like right at this moment, it's there. Okay, and the longer you delay it, seeking and attaching, craving and doing all that stuff, then you're telling the divine it's not there. You're the one doing that, not the divine. Okay, so I hope that helped you guys. That's channel. Let's take a look at the decks we'll be using first and foremost. You guys can skip to the timestamp if you want to get to the reading. So for the oracle cards for this reading, I won't be using too many. And we will pull from the Animal Power deck the picks. And we will be using the Enneagram Oracles. We'll use the general ones, and we'll also use the Love Enneagram Oracles, okay, to see who this person is. And for the tarot, we'll be using the Tarot of Sacred Kingdoms for all piles. And I do believe we probably will be doing 4. I'm not sure. We'll see. All right. So, yeah, let's pick your cards. Give me a moment. I'll grab them. All right, beautiful angels. Let's pull 4 options for who is your divine counterpart. Who is the one you're sort of meant to align with here in this lifetime? Okay, we'll pull 4 picks here. Whichever one you're called to will most likely be, oh my goodness, look what we have here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll put those 2 together exactly like that. Okay. So if you're called to any one of these right now, you can select from the timestamp down below. Okay, I will reveal these shortly to see what we're dealing with here. So let's take a look. Option number 1 has got the frog with take the leap. Interesting. I saw this at the bottom of the deck when I was shuffling. Option number 2, eagle, trust your highest vision. Option number 3, we have whale, communicate clearly. And option number 4, we have the turtle, evoke ancient grounded power, and dragonfly, take new directions. Okie dokie. So sit with these 4 energies. If you have difficulty choosing, close your eyes and open your eyes. You will be called to one of these piles. Okay, your energy should sit in the pile as well as your person. Don't take anything you don't like. I'm not forcing you to be there. Okay, you're in my world, coming here, listening to a reading that I'm doing. Don't like it? Go elsewhere. Okay, so beautiful angels, I'll leave this with you guys, and I will see you at your pick. Hello, gorgeous pile number 1. You guys picked the frog with take the leap. And we're looking at who is your divine counterpart, who you're sort of meant to align with in this lifetime. Who's the one, okay, for you. We'll see what Spirit wants to pull through here. Now, I do suggest you go listen to the intro before you ask any questions or leave any comments in regards to what this is all about, because I will timestamp you right to that point. So everything you need is there. Now, we're looking at you versus your divine counterpart so that you know whether this is your pile or not, okay? I'm just reading cards and energy. I don't know who shows up through here, okay? So hopefully it's someone that works for you. If not, go to another pile. All right, so you could either be person A or person B. I'll sort of do it the way I did yesterday's reading for those of you guys who listened to that. And we'll see. So we have the flame, number 51. We have innocent. I don't think there's any numbers on these. Nope. Just says innocent. And we have control, 64, or the number 10, relationship trap, stress level. It says intransigence, surveillance, critical judgment, having a grip, authoritarianism. Type 1, the perfectionist, instinctive center between control and letting go. Number 1 here. Okay. And we have the crocus, and it says cheerfulness. It is spring again. The earth is like a child that knows poems by heart. Rainer Maria Rilke. Hopefully you guys can see that. Beautiful crocus. Gorgeous. And we have the 10, number 21. And we have self-doubt. And we have number 8, veil of ignorance, ego level, being strong, authoritarianism. That came through here. Okay, number 8. And then it says personal justice, anger, denial, dishonesty, and power dynamics. Type 8, the challenger, instinctive center between strength and weakness. All right, let's take a look at the other person here. We have 60 with the kiss. And we have hypocrite. Remember, don't take words literally. I'm going to be channeling the energy that pulls through these cards, okay? And we have fusion with the relationship trap 72 stress level. Blend into each other. Intimate union, unification, communion, self-forgetfulness, reciprocal dependence. Type 9, the peacemaker, instinctive center between forgetting and asserting oneself. Okay. And then we have the Choropsis tick seed. It says, always joyful. Write it in your heart that every day is the best day of the year. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Wow. Beautiful. And we have sublimation. 67. We have begin. And we have 11, inner call, ego level, self-listening, receiving versus giving, self-awareness, autonomy, self-compassion, valorization of self, relationship healing. Number 2, type 2, the helper emotional center between giving and receiving. Wow. Spectacular. Okay. Let me grab the one that feels appropriate here. Of course, it's the one that's right in the far back. Okay, we're going to channel. I will start with person A, which we'll call the flame. Okay, and person B we'll call the kiss. Okay, just to keep things sort of straight. You can either be the flame or the kiss. And if you don't resonate with one side being you, then this isn't your reading. Okay. Okay. Let's see this person. This is really cute, you guys. It's really cute. Okay, so now I know why this take a leap. I do feel from these two, the flame is most likely very hesitant, but nothing to do with the kiss. The flame's hesitancy comes from their lack of confidence in themselves to experience a connection and be vulnerable in themselves. There's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to experience. And so I don't know necessarily that the flame has had many intimate unions or relationships. And so their self-doubt is really stemmed from not knowing what is right or what is acceptable or what is too involved. Because I do feel like this flame person is judging themselves on a level here of being too much of a beginner in some capacity. And so they're very nervous. And I don't necessarily know if they're just like this in connection or if it's brought out because of the kiss. And I feel it's brought out because of the kiss. So it could be that the kiss person might definitely be a little bit more experienced or is creating this sort of intimidating energy, because I do feel like there's a lot of love felt in the heart space here. I feel like this flame person feels really warm in the heart here in a way that they've never felt like before. And so it's quite scary for this person to feel these feelings that are foreign to them. I feel like this person, the flame person, has been fairly guarded, protecting their heart. I do feel like they haven't experienced a warming of the heart space. And I do feel like there might be a period where this flame person is a little bit sort of in denial about the truth of how they truly feel, because it comes on very quickly. Every time they're around the kiss person, it's like they feel almost out of control, or they have no ability to be able to bring themselves into order. And so it feels like uncomfortable, to say the least, because I do feel like the flame wants to do things right. I feel like the flame person wants to not fumble. And I feel like the flame person might come from the angle that the more in control they are of self, the more strength they show, the more desirable they are. And I do feel that they try to be that for some time. And this could certainly get in the way of these two, the flame and the kiss, because I do feel like the flame wants to have a level of control over their emotions and their self. It feels very foreign to this flame person. And I do feel like it takes quite some time for them to fully open up completely. And I don't know how long this takes. And it could be passed off as someone who's closed off or not interested, you know? And it might even be somebody who doesn't necessarily say that they're interested right away either. And they try to hold on to this, hoping maybe that these feelings, you know, dissipate or that they can have control over their emotions again. But I do feel like this flame person around the kiss just can't help but feel the way that they feel. And I do feel like their connection with this kiss person shows this person how to love in a way here that is authentically true, but is very uncomfortable for this flame person to experience. And I do feel like this flame person might see parts of themselves reflected back to them that they don't necessarily want to see or like to see. And so they might shy away from engaging with the kiss because it's like, I thought I had more control, self-mastery over my ability to hone in my emotions or do certain things here that they can't because they're fighting themselves. And I do feel like Spirit's talking about once this flame person really connects to their self in a way here that is authentic, without judgment and without trying to control narrative, then they become more flexible to this connection and they are definitely in it for the long term. They see the kiss as their long-term partner here, but it's almost like an energy of, because they haven't really experienced deep connection or feeling this way before, it's like hard for them to believe that this kiss person would be someone that could be a dream come true for them. And so I think they resist this because they don't want to get disappointed and let down. And they certainly don't want to get broken. There's a fear of being broken here if they give in too quickly or too soon or open up in a way here. And so I do feel like there's a lot of hesitancy in just allowing things to unfold without the need to control the narrative. But I do feel like Spirit's coming through saying that this flame person had an instant like feeling of love, an instant spark, an instant chemistry, an instant desire here towards this kiss person right from the beginning. It wasn't something that had to develop over time, but their need to let go and not control and be self-critical, that's what is taking the most amount of time here for this person to trust themselves to show up, because I don't feel like this person wants to ruin the connection between them and the kiss person. So it's kind of talking about the onset of who this person is. I don't really see in depth of like how they are once they open up, but I do feel like the heavy emphasis here is on this person's hesitancy of why it is this person can't just come forward, you know? And it has nothing really to do with the kiss so much as the way the kiss makes this flame person feel. Yeah. So let's see if more comes through, but let's channel this kiss person then. Give me a second. I feel like the kiss person here is at a state of self-realization when these two sort of maybe reach the peak of what connection means between them and another. I think there's a comfort here with being truly vulnerable and intimate and trying to find a fine line between trying to maybe be something for someone else or attain something from someone else. Because I do feel like for the kiss, their lessons, if you will, is all about how to be with another in a balanced way that allows them to not completely lose themselves, but truthfully still be open to give of themselves and find that happy balance. Because I do feel like this kiss might have experienced imbalanced connections in the past, and it could be imbalanced with this flame person at some point. I don't know. But just looking at this kiss person at a certain point, when they're able to sort of rise above and master their ability to receive and give in a balanced way of themselves and still feel connected and loved and still be vulnerable and not withhold. Because I do feel like it might be difficult for the kiss person to be vulnerable and allow themselves to give of themselves if they don't know for sure it's sort of going to be reciprocated, which is sort of a withholding energy. And so I feel like there might be a point in time maybe where this kiss experiences this flame person sort of withholding, not being honest or truthful because of their need for control and judging themselves and the self-doubt that we talked about here. And so they're also being asked to take the leap to trust that when they give love and they're not withholding from a place of a desire to give of self, that the love will come back to them. So I do feel like there could be a capacity for this kiss person to sort of lose themselves in connection or other people and not want to, be overly sort of invested and know the difference here. But I do feel like this kiss person feels like every time they're with the flame, it's like it feels really, really amazing, like almost really magical here. They feel very listened to and connected to. It's like a very deep recognition that I don't know that the kisses experience in other connections. It feels like it's very familiar, very warm, very safe, and very much an instant fulfillment with this flame person. And so this kiss person has to sort of do the dance, if you will, because I do feel like the fact that they feel so connected instantly, it seems like here, and that every moment they spend with this flame person feels very fulfilling. It's like they have to sort of bring themselves back to earth in some capacity here to be realistic with what's sort of going on within themselves outside of the connection, because I feel like the connection is one in which this kiss person could completely lose themselves and identify as the connection. And so it's important for this kiss person, like I say, to detach, to focus on connecting to themselves outside of this connection, which might be difficult because I do feel, like I said, the kiss person feels very whole, feels very safe, feels very much in heaven, when the flame and the kiss person are together. So they want to experience this, of course, but at the same time, it's like a need for this person to be whole and strong on their own to be able to give and receive in a balanced way in the union, in the connection, without identifying, as the connection being who they are and who makes this person. And so I think this is a big struggle for this kiss person, because I do feel like what I'm getting here is this kiss person might have really lost themselves, you know? And I do feel it might be in this connection at some point, or just a history of losing themselves in connection. And it doesn't really always end well for one to become lost in connection, to remain their own sort of independent self, to be able to invest and still show up and know the difference between this, and be very self-aware of when they're totally losing themselves. I do feel like the kiss person might put a lot of focus on the fact that the flame person isn't investing in them right away, because of this whole thing that has all to do with the flame, nothing to do with the kiss, the self-doubt. And the kiss person might internalize this as a reflection of their ability to be lovable or loved by the flame. And so this might pose as a challenge to this kiss to overcome, to know that they are lovable, and that sometimes other people carry challenges that have nothing to do with reflecting the kiss's value or their worth, whether they're a suitable partner or not, just because the flame didn't want to sort of commit to this kiss person. I do feel like this kiss person might have been awoken to some form of spiritual calling or a higher purpose when they met this flame person. Okay, so it's like, if you want to call it a spiritual awakening, you can call it a true sort of realization of there being something more within this kiss person to achieve for themselves or to see about themselves. But it's like the highest version of them has been awoken, and for them to be on this path of ascension, which is independent of this connection, but as a result of this connection. And so therefore this is what becomes sort of the gray line, is like, because of their experience with the flame, they've really connected to a certain part of themselves that might have been very dormant. And they have a lot of gratitude here for being awoken by this divine union connection. I do feel like the kiss person is a little more liking to engage in acts of, what is it called? Their love language is touch, physical. And it could very well be that this flame person is very hesitant on their ability to perform in connection. And so I feel like there might be a little bit of a question here by the kiss person, whether this flame person is into them or attracted to them or wanting to physically sort of bond. And this could definitely be a struggle until the kiss person understands that there's maybe some lack of experience when it comes to the flame person, or like being comfortable and allowing themselves to experience physically and let loose and be a little more flexible to this connection, which takes time. I do feel like the kiss is really wanting to have a connection here where it is equally mutual, where they both sort of desire each other in a way here where they need each other, you know, and not in a way of codependency so much as it is, like it says here, reciprocal dependency, because I do feel like the kiss doesn't want to feel like they're sort of in a connection on their own, you know, and because the flame is a little bit hesitant here, it's like the kiss might sometimes feel alone, or like they might say they're more invested or have more intense feelings or be more passionately pulled or more physically attracted. And like, these are all the thoughts that this kiss person might have that isn't necessarily true, because I do feel like the flame is really more focused on not losing themselves in a way, or doing something that might ruin this connection, or make them feel uncomfortable, which again is like, getting over themselves in order to still be able to engage. I do feel like there's a sense here that the flame doesn't want this kiss person to have control or power over them in a way here that makes them feel weak if things weren't to work out. Because I feel like the flame person might have experienced witnessing, whether it was their connection or not, a loss. Maybe they've seen their parents go through a divorce, or a family or a friend, a member of their family or something like this. And it's like, that would suck for me to be at the mercy of someone else telling me how I'm feeling, and really being scared to allow themselves to feel, and this could be a big barrier between these two. Now, we do have signs here, but I will get into the tarot. Okay, so we have Gemini, Capricorn, Virgo, Leo, Aries, Scorpio, and Cancer, and Pisces, and Aquarius. Yeah, lots of signs here. Okay, so let's take a look at the tarot to see what more we need to know about this union. Spirit, clear and concise message regarding pile number 1 and their divine counterparts, this union. What do we need to know? What are we missing here about this connection that pile 1 needs to know? Clear and concise message for the greatest and highest good of pile 1. Please protect me and the viewer as I channel this message for the greatest and highest good of pile 1. Thank you so much, pile 1, for allowing you to tap into your energy, the energy around you at this time. I'm so blessed to be here. Knight of Wands. The star or the sun? Sorry, the sun. Wow, with the lion here and the sun. Lots of Leo energy. Beautiful sun. That's giving me this. Right on your heart that every day is the best day of the year. Also this energy. It is spring again. The earth is like a child that knows poems by heart. Beautiful. Beautiful sun. Most positive card in the tarot here. The 10 of Cups. You guys. Wow. Joy. Knight of Wands, the sun, the 10 of Cups. Why is this Knight of Wands here? The Magician, Virgo, Gemini energy. And we have the Phoenix. Oh my goodness. This is a special card in this, but it's giving me this begin and this sublimation. Look at the artwork on this. Okay. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. And why is this 10 of Cups here, Spirit? Why is the 10 of Cups here? We have the 5 of Pentacles. Wow, you guys. I'm going to pull one for the 5 Pentacles. I just feel like both of these are pulled out of something when they meet each other. Some lack. Yeah, 2 of Cups in reverse. Okay. And what's at the bottom of the deck? The 4 of Swords. And under that, we have the Queen of Cups, which is Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces in reverse. 4 Swords. Okay. So, beautiful angels. This connection is so amazing. I feel like this connection with both of these pushes both of the kiss person and the flame person to be the highest version. It's a connection of ascension and healing. Okay, the potential here, these are the 2 most positive cards you could possibly pull in the tarot. The sun, the 10 of Cups. This is emotional fulfillment, a happily ever after, a fairy tale of joy and contentment. But I really feel like it's because both of these people get to experience the best version of themselves with the sun. I really feel this is an awakening type connection where both these people become enlightened to spirit within them, and so this flame person that's experiencing the self-doubt, they can see themselves. They are reborn here, even though they might be going through this sort of early stage of understanding. It's like is they get to see and connect to a part of them that was dormant and that could have forever been dormant had they not experienced the kiss showing them, mirroring to them this potential within them to be the best version and to come together. I feel like the passion is definitely mutual. And I do feel as though there is this, with the magician here, this ability for both of these people to manifest greater potential in their own individual lives, as well as the full potential in this connection. And the full potential in this connection is realized by the fact that both of these people are capable of becoming the best version within themselves. Without connecting to this, they would be incapable of reaching any potential. So it's like an individual growth, developing the tools on their own so that they can manifest their own world and then come together to share a beautiful world together. Because I feel like they feel unstoppable due to each other's love. It's like the greatest version that the flame could be is achieved by the love that the kiss gives to the flame, and vice versa here. Okay, but I do feel like both parties most likely experienced, with the 5 pentacles and this 2 cups in reverse, experiences in the past that have left them feeling unloved and lacking, and connection that have been imbalanced or not reciprocated. And so we do see, the big need here for the kiss person to have reciprocal love. They want this. And so it might seem like a red flag when the flame's hesitant or not taking a chance. Because they've experienced this 5 pentacle and this 2 cups in reverse, it's like other connections weren't able to meet me and appreciate me and love me. And I felt out in the cold, or like I had to work with, situations that weren't ideal. And I feel like the flame person comes from a world of this 5 pentacles because I feel like they haven't been able to experience connection. They almost stop believing that there was anyone out there for them. It's like they were scarcity mindset. Like, I'm not ever going to be in a connection where I'm capable of feeling love, intensity, warmth, joy, appreciated. And so there's this hesitancy in being themselves. It's like, who will love me for being myself? I have nothing maybe to offer here in a connection that is next level, and if that's a core belief, it's like they don't find people that resonate emotionally that can give to them. And I think the flame hasn't come across any connection that's ever loved them for them. And so it's been very almost like withdrawing from connection, because they anticipate knowing that there wouldn't be someone who would see them and appreciate them and love them in a balanced way here. And that became their reality, and so they're hesitant because of this experience. And so both of these people are sort of hesitant in their own rights based on their own past experience. And Spirit is really talking about the potential being great with these two once they finally get on the same page and allow themselves to ascend to a point where they're confident in their own ability. They're no longer allowing the other to sort of dictate whether they're seen or not seen, or lovable, not lovable. It's like, no, like, you have the capacity here to manifest great love, to see that within self, and the rest will sort of fall in play, And so I do feel like both parties have to do quite a bit of healing here of this lack mindset, or this understanding that they have about love being disappointing, so that they can love again. Because I do feel there's a block here in regards to potentially allowing another to enter the space and love them and trust that love is something that it won't hurt them. Yeah, and I feel like this connection is really intense. And so I do feel like both of these feel very emotionally overwhelmed by each other. And so they might have to take breaks here, because I do feel like the emotional intensity might be something that is quite triggering here, And so I do feel like there's like a slow sort of ease into this connection, or they finally sort of move forward. Now, the frog's all about healing and cleansing. The Four of Swords is healing too. And so I do feel like the hesitancy is all the time that the divine is giving both of these to heal these beliefs, these wounds, these past experiences that create lack and disappointment and habitual patterns that might not allow a connection to run smooth. Because if, let's say, the kiss is really used to connection sort of being representative of who they are, they've lost themselves. And if the flame is so hesitant and dragging their feet because they need control over how they look, and they're sort of not following their passions because they don't want to appear foolish or break or give in to something like this, then they can't allow themselves to be themselves. And this is something that takes time for both of them to heal. So I do feel this is a very slow sort of build up, but the potential is very beautiful here. Like I said, the most positive cards we could pull from the tarot here, and it is a mutual passion. But both need to sort of step in their courage and trust themselves, because I do feel like there's a doubt that is given that we let creep in by the other and by past experience that gets in the way of us being confident in our ability to perform for the other, So this is what I see, pile one. Beautiful reading. I hope this resonated for you guys. You'll have to let me know in the comments if this is someone you already know, if this is someone that you're interested in, if you resonate with this pile. And I will see you at the next one. All right, bye-bye. Hello, pile number 2. You guys pick the eagle. Trust your highest vision for your pick. I do suggest you go listen to the intro before you spaz out regarding this reading, okay? Because I will just sort of timestamp you back to that intro so that you know what this reading's about. We're looking at you and your divine counterpart. Who is it you're supposed to, meant to sort of align with, okay? According to what Spirit has here. So if you don't resonate with one side being your energy, then this isn't your pile, okay? And if you don't want to take this reading, then don't take this reading. We're looking at A versus B, you and your divine counterpart, who you're supposed to meant to be with, and see what shows up here, okay? So we have the wolf. Wow. Wolf. And we have the vision. Oh my goodness. 55. So 55 is a master number. Change is the only constant. Divinely orchestrated change. See the 2 owls here. So I'm getting heavy air energy. Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. We have seduction. Number 30. Relationship skills. Ego level. It says attractiveness, charisma, glamour, beauty, elegance, and gallantry. Number 3. Type 3, the achiever, emotional center between appearing and authenticity. The vision. And look at this eagle with the vision. Crazy. And we have motherhood. 83, happy event, growth level. So it says being pregnant, giving birth, maternity, adopting, giving life, and childbearing. Number 2, type 2, the helper, emotional center between giving and receiving. Wow. And we have the phlox flower here, and it says unanimity and harmony. He who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe. Marcus Aurelius. Okay. And we have copper, number 23, or the number 5. And we have 91, mystical union, growth level, appeasement, tolerance and benevolence, open-mindedness, letting go, gentleness, multiple truths, imperfection, acceptance. Type 1, the perfectionist, instinctive center between control and letting go. Number 1. And we also have 48, purification path, welcome failures, detaching from the results, redefining success, being authentic, telling the truth, rebalancing your life, detaching from objects. Type 3, the achiever, emotional center between appearing and authenticity. I love that we see Jesus on both of these. Love it. Beautiful. And we have anxiety. Okay. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Let's take a look at person B, okay? So we have the dreamer. And we have the lover. Number 17. And getting Aquarius and Sagittarius energy and some Pisces from this pile so far. We have place and activity 27, ego level, relaxation, countryside, promenade, seaside, picnic, leisure, relaxation. Type 9, the peacemaker, instinctive center between forgetting and asserting oneself. And we have 96, relational quality growth level, trust, faith in others, well-being, certainty, fidelity, benevolence, feeling of security. Type 6, the loyalist, thinking center between mistrust and trust. Interesting, because we have benevolence and tolerance on this side as well, being mirrored. And we have the violet flower. It says faithfulness and modesty. Modesty is a shining light that prepares the mind to receive knowledge and the heart for truth. Wow, right by this trust here. Let me see those flowers again. Wow, okay. And we have the drowned king, number 49. And we have trust. Wow, twice you guys have trust here, and this truth being imbued into the heart and mind with trust. Wow. Okay. And then we have 26, conscious awakening. In control, uncontrolled anger, authoritarianism, personal justice, conflict tendency, fear of vulnerability, rejection of weakness. Type 8, the challenger, instinctive center between strength and weakness, number 8. Okay. So let me channel. You guys can skip ahead if you want. Okay, interesting energy, you guys. Oh, wow, and trust, your highest vision, trust. Okay. So it's interesting because I do feel a little bit of like yesterday's energy come through here for this pile. And I do feel, now if you didn't watch yesterday's reading, then maybe it's not for you, but I do feel like there was one person sort of up in the cloud. Okay, is kind of what I feel from this person here. But let's get into what is going on here. So I'm going to call person A the wolf and person B the dreamer. Okay, just to keep us straight. And you're either going to resonate with the wolf or the dreamer. If you're not on either side, then this isn't your pile. So I feel like the wolf, right from the start, is really pulled by the dreamer. Okay, and we could see why. There's this very beautiful, dreamy sort of energy here with the dreamer. And so the wolf is really pulled, really called. Okay, and I do feel like the wolf can even feel almost like seduced by this dreamer's energy because it is very dreamy. Now, the seduction doesn't have to be like a physical seduction of sex. It could be like just being overwhelmed and seduced in our mind and in the story and in the dream of the dreamer that's going on over here, which we'll get into. So I feel like the wolf, it goes through something very profound in the experience of connecting with this dreamer person. And it is one of getting comfortable with reality as it is and their world as they know it, in conjunction with the dreamer's world being two sort of truths that can coexist in happiness and harmony. Okay, but it's how do we harmonize and find balance between two worlds? Because I do feel like these two people understand each other on a very deep, deep, deep level. and their coming together is all about giving them the wisdom, and they are overcoming a big challenge between the two of them that they have to find a way to get through. And in order to get through the big challenge, which I do feel is them being sort of in two worlds, although they understand each other very deeply, it's like, how do we bridge the gap and get through and overcome these obstacles between us in order for us to align and make something sort of function here? Okay, because I do feel like the wolf has a deep understanding and a knowing and an instinct that there's a lot here with the dreamer that's to unfold or should unfold, but then there's a lot here that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And that's because the wolf is still having to go through understanding themselves in a regards to how to navigate other truths of other people and accept certain things that they might not have wanted to accept or acknowledge when it comes to certain realities that are true but maybe misaligned. And so there's this balancing act that I feel the wolf is having to live through and really understand, which could be very challenging as a result of knowing this dreamer person. And I do almost feel like this wolf person almost seems like they instantly fall into a role with this dreamer of like a parent-child type energy here. Okay, because I do feel like the wolf kind of can see through instinctually what's going on with the dreamer and wants to provide help, or at least get the dreamer to experience something in this world that the wolf knows that the dreamer can experience, rather than sort of say in this fantasy sort of energy that the dreamer likes to reside in. And so I do feel like the wolf has to really understand themselves on a deeper level from letting go and detaching from a lot of egoic beliefs and ways of being that the wolf might have adapted in order to survive. And I do feel like the wolf maybe, sorry, I know you hear barking, that's my dog. The wolf might have had one understanding of how partnerships and family are supposed to be, and like come in with a bag full of information and conditioning and programmed beliefs that aren't necessarily bad or wrong. It's just that the wolf was being asked to detach from a lot of these logical sort of stories and understandings in order for the wolf to really trust their instinct and their intuition, which might be very polarized to what they're thinking logically about this dreamer. Because I do feel like the wolf might have initially, upon meeting the dreamers, like attribute how the connection should go and how it should unfold based on an intellect and a knowing. But there's also this intuitive, instinctual energy that, like I said, is sort of polarized to their way of thinking that is sort of guiding them. But it seems as though every time they sort of engage with this dreamer person, it becomes evident to them that there's a lot of obstacles that needs to be overcome between the two of them in order for them to work it through so they could come together. This takes a lot of dedication, commitment, and being sort of humble, and also finding common ground and letting go of certain attachments that the wolf might have had to certain stories or ways of wanting things to work out, and letting go of their grip to what they thought a connection should be and how it should go. And it's really like based on this sort of instinctual pull that they have towards the dreamer that is undescribable. Like, I can't even put it into words here. But I do feel like the wolf is being called to see things from a greater perspective of understanding that what they might be experiencing with the dreamer on a day in, day out basis might be very challenging, but it doesn't paint the big full picture here of the story. But to stay in that more elevated state, it takes a lot of work. And so I do feel like the wolf battles their mind and their pre-programmed beliefs and their logical brain when it comes to what this connection could be and what they wanted it to be versus sort of where they're being called to go and what they have to accept, which could be something very different here. And I don't feel like the wolf person here is always completely thrilled and happy with the results of this connection, because it seems like the dreamer is sort of at a distant place where this wolf can't seem to fully feel accepted or welcomed in, although they do feel very seen and understood by the dreamer person, because these two share like an understanding amongst the two of them. And so it really fosters both individuals really caring about the connection and nurturing the connection, no matter how challenging it might be to come together and work things out. And so for some of you guys, this could be one really major obstacle that's almost very difficult to see a way through at first, that over time, there's a way that both the wolf and the dreamer can work together to overcome this. But they have to sort of be creative, and they have to let go of outcome, and they have to put their trust in their instincts and the divine, and the fact that they're very pulled by the other to keep going and be like instigated or incentivized, I should say, to continue pursuing finding balance and harmony in this connection. Yeah, and it's really about being okay if it doesn't work, and being okay in our own skin and with the disappointments and the past of what sort of made us who we are. And once we can let go of holding any sort of angers or resentments, or like still being attached to stories of the past, you know, if we're attached to stories of the past, and it's like we can't have a clean slate of what can be in the future here. And I feel this takes some time for the wolf to sort of get this concept or work through this. But their desire to align with the dreamer is very strong. And they're kind of being called to really live in the moment and act on instinct and intuition, rather than, like I said, from a book of an understanding that they might have carried for some time or in other connections. And I don't think that the wolf always feels comfortable without knowing where they're being led, you know, and almost feeling like, is this dreamer sort of leading me down a garden path? Am I going to be used? Is this going anywhere? And it's like spirit wants the wolf to surrender and trust their instinct and not to be so attached to where they're headed. And so there's a lot of internal work that needs to be done here with the wolf when it comes to how they engage and operate in the world, and really developing their intuition and their trust of the divine in themselves to sort of make decisions and act on intuition more than maybe in past times, where maybe they were a little bit more hesitant to follow their intuition and more logical brained and sort of, you know, calculating risk. Because I do feel like there's a lot of calculating risk before they can make moves or make decisions. And so they feel out of their element when they're in a situation that requires them to trust their intuition, which has no guarantees. It's scary. There's a lot of anxiety here. So they might experience a dark night of the soul. They might even experience an ego death. There's definitely having to find the truest version of self that isn't masking up with the mind, because we could fall back on what we know and the logic we carry as sort of ourself, but we're not our mind. We're not what we know. Okay. And I feel like maybe the wolf was used to falling back on being intellectual and falling back on that and being liked for what they know and how much they know and how smart they are and their intelligence. And it's like, this isn't anything to do with this at all. And so now the wolf is out of their element here, but they know that they're being called to this dreamer person. Okay, so the dreamer person here is in some sort of faraway land that feels very much like a fantasy. So it feels beautiful energetically, but when it comes to, like the 3D and putting like the rubber meeting the road, it seems like the dreamer person sort of can't navigate back down to earth. It seems like the dreamer too is sort of living in maybe past, or like has a lot of like fantasy based on past experience, or like a past life of theirs that they're sort of using to accumulate this sort of dreamy idea of what a relationship could mean or be. There's a very relaxed energy here of like playing it cool, like everything's always so like at ease, playing it cool, and like it feels very welcoming. But I feel like a big part of this is really them covering up the fact that they have a difficult time, the dreamer has a difficult time trusting other people, being vulnerable and committing themselves to another person to give their life in their hands and trusting that process. And so I feel there's like this defense mechanism of being in fantasy and keeping things in dream state rather than making things a reality. And so I do feel like between these two, the wolf might feel as though the dreamer is sort of keeping them at a distance, which they are energetically, but it's not because the dreamer isn't pulled by the wolf person or attracted to the wolf person, or even that the dreamer doesn't necessarily trust the integrity of the wolf so much as I feel the dreamer has a hard time trusting in other people and allowing themselves to be vulnerable and trusting themselves to deal with connection when it comes to reality. It's like if it was a real connection, the dreamer would have to like do conflict resolution and deal with the parts of connection that might be challenging. That's a part of this connection. And I feel like the dreamer avoids that or doesn't want to experience that in case it doesn't work very well. But I feel like because the dreamer is so much connecting positive feeling and ease as it's working, and if there is conflict, if there is an indifference, it automatically means there might be a loss, or it's not working, or it's like the worst thing ever. And so I do feel like the lover doesn't like conflict, tries to keep things always sort of superficial, which you can't really get into a deep sort of bonding if you can't overcome struggle and challenge, because every challenge you sort of overcome with someone, you get closer. You get closer and closer as you overcome challenges. That's how relationships sort of develop over time. But I do feel like this dreamer person has a very difficult time trusting themselves, and this gives off that they don't trust other people to be in connection. They never really quite feel like a connection could be secure if challenge or indifference comes along. Then it's like, uh-oh, this is at risk, and it's like they want to avoid that. So it's like if they keep things sort of in one pocket, they don't have to deal with conflict. They don't have to deal with putting the connection at risk, where what if we don't agree? What if we can't resolve this? What if all of a sudden I'm at a loss with the person that I opened up to? So this is why they don't want to go fully into this sort of connection in the beginning here. But we're seeing the Drowned King, which is all about ego death here. Okay. And plunging the depths sort of our feels here. And I do feel like this is really scary for this dreamer person to plunge the depths, even though the dreamer does feel very deep. But going into the depths without sort of having a safety net, so to speak, takes a lot of trust and courage for this dreamer person to do this. And I feel like the dreamer does come to a point with this wolf where they finally submerge themselves in allowing themselves to feel. And whatever sort of happens kind of happens here. And I feel like for a lot of this wolf dreamer dynamic. I think that's the big obstacle that we were sort of picking up in the wolf, is like overcoming this dreamer's tendency to not want to allow anyone in the world of going in deep, because they wouldn't go into the deep end themselves. But yet the deepness is there, and it's felt and it's understood. And like I said, like the wolf has this like parent energy, because I feel like the wolf understands that this dreamer has a potential of deep love and compassion and warmth, and could experience this love on a whole other level, because it's intuitively understood. And it's like, why would this dreamer resist or fight or like deny themselves of this experience? And so the wolf is sort of adamant that the dreamer see this, that the dreamer trust that process of unfolding, because I feel like the wolf had to trust a process of unfolding here, despite every obstacle and maybe being pushed away here by the dreamer's inability to connect. I don't think the dreamer outright rejected this wolf, but by not connecting deep, the wolf felt rejected. It's like, why can the dreamer not trust this connection to allow themselves to get deep and to experience this at its deepest level? And like, it's because this wolf person really lacked trust in being vulnerable and opening up to this, in which they could, again, put the connection at risk if the intensity became that in which you couldn't be resolved. They didn't trust that it could be resolved, that there might be too much challenge to overcome in connection. So this says, Violet, faithfulness and modesty. Modesty is a shining light that prepares the mind to receive knowledge and the heart for the truth. I feel like this dreamer was sort of resisting what was wanting to be felt in the heart, and then keeping it sort of, again, like this like laid back light energy, where it was like it didn't feel like it was being experienced, and more like it was coated with this idea of a possibility of what they could experience, you know, somewhere in the future, in some state, in some faraway land, and maybe even felt very deeply on the 5D, because the wolf is very intuitive. And so both of these people, the dreamer and the wolf, were really called to rise above their current state so they could see beyond their limitations, so that they're capable of coming together in a way here that's let go of their challenge and their reason why they couldn't flow. But I feel like the wolf's biggest challenge here was what was being shown back to them by the dreamer, that they needed to sort of resolve within themselves before approaching this dreamer. And the dreamer was really having to look at why they couldn't plunge into the depths and make it a reality of a connection here if they feel deeply, and acknowledge that it's really based on their inability to trust themselves and trust the divine and trust the process and allow the flow to unfold here without this avoidance energy, you know? It's like the dreamer really wants security, and there's no way to really know surely, you know, that something would last forever, or that they wouldn't be mishandled. And that's really big for this dreamer. It's like, I don't want to be mishandled, and I want to trust that others are going to have my best interest, and that if I am at my worst, I'm still appreciated. But this would require them to experience it, for them to trust the divine in the process here, which is all about like trusting ourselves and loving ourselves enough to put ourselves through some experience here, knowing that we're worthy of experiencing deep love. But there is, like I said, an ego here, and the ego here is the protective mechanism used to keep us safe. And what are they keeping them safe from? It's like, I don't want to be out of control with someone else sort of at the mercy of my future, and like potentially leaving me, or potentially not liking me, or potentially it getting someplace where I can't be the owner of my feelings, and there's really this need for control, which has nothing really to do with feeling love and allowing ourselves to be comfortable in love and trusting others and being vulnerable. Those are two sort of different worlds that the dreamer is having to work through before coming through here to work with the wolf person. So there's lots of love felt between these two, but definitely lots of challenge. Okay, and it needs to sort of see themselves from different eyes so that they can learn the lessons that they're needing to learn. Okay, two owls here, before they can come together and overcome these big obstacles, and almost like not see it as, I don't know, like something that's negative. But with this welcoming failures, it's like all the challenges make us stronger. All of the struggles and the things we're sort of uncovering in each other is actually a blessing, because it's healing a lot of parts that needed to be healed and understood by both parties. Okay. Yeah. So let's see what Spirit wants to talk about here with the tarot. Okay. I know this more was talking about like these two sort of how they come together. And maybe this is so you know who this person is, because I do feel as though there's already sort of a history here. And if not, then this is sort of what we experience here as we align with the greatest version of each other, the wolf and the dreamer. Okay, so let's take a look at what Spirit wants to communicate here for the wolf and the dreamer. Spirit, clear and concise message for the greatest and highest good of pile number 2 in this connection. Their divine counterpart. What do we need to know about this connection? Clear and concise message for the greatest and highest good. Please protect me and the viewer as I channel this message for the greatest and highest good of pile number 2. What do they need to know? Thank you so much for this message. So we have the Queen of Wands in reverse. Aries, Leo, Sagittarius energy. That's the shedding of the mask, the shedding of the ego. And we talked about it even with the wolf here. There was detaching from the result. And I do feel like the wolf might have not have been seen fully. Wanted the appreciation and the value from this dreamer person to sort of make them feel okay. Because remember, it was like they're always known for how much they know or show. And it's like, I want to be appreciated and loved for these reasons. And Spirit's teaching this wolf person, it's like, no, you're going to be loved for the essence of who you are, not about how much you know or how much you can give or how much success you have. And there's like hanging on to some outcome. Okay. Let's see. Spirit, clear and concise message for the greatest and highest good of pile number 2. So we have the 8 of Swords in reverse. Yeah, it's all about overcoming limiting thoughts. And the Dreamers was all about the limiting thought in an inability to trust that they could reconcile differences and challenges and still be loved, even in their worst, that they don't have to be in this sort of everything is easy, everything is good, everything is like calm, cool, and collected. Because if things aren't calm, cool, and collected, the Dreamer would just shut down and break into this like, like, it's not going to work, it's going to fail, and like, so they don't even want to go there. So they just keep it sort of in the state, which is very, makes the wolf feel almost like undervalued and not really appreciated or seen in a deep way that they know the Dreamer could plunge if they trust and allow and flow and let go of their need for control, which is this 8 Swords in reverse, which they do. They do break out of their mental prison. And I just said do. Yeah, the Fool, new beginning, Aquarius energy. Exactly. It's like and look at the wolf. Oh my gosh, you guys, I love it. Must come without baggage. Okay, look at this beautiful wolf. And we have a wolf and then we have a person. It almost looks like a shepherd. So the Fool is all about taking a leap and trusting where we're being guided without any knowledge, without any certainty. And we could be led astray, but we trust in the divine and we don't come with any baggage. So there a lot's coming through here. I was talking about this wolf not being bitter and angry because I do feel like at some point this wolf might feel not seen or appreciated based on how this dreamer is acting. But it's not because the dreamer thinks that the wolf is unworthy. The dreamer has their own issues here, as we saw. This has nothing to do with the reflection of the wolf, but the wolf feels so much pull here with the seduction. Might even feel like this dreamer seducing them, painting this world. It's all dreamy, but isn't giving them the substance, the depth. It's almost like a tease. And they feel maybe slighted or angry or upset by this. But it's like, no, the dreamer just has this 8 swords that they're having to work through. And so if the wolf takes this personal, then the wolf has to work through ego, not taking it personal, still seeing their value, not relying on what it is that they have to show of themselves in order to be approved. And so I feel like the baggage needs to definitely be dropped before these two can have a new beginning. And a history that they might have experienced that might have felt very challenging needs to go away. Their past needs to go away. There's a lot of past baggage here that's creating the mindset of the 8 swords. 5 swords, yeah. So they experience conflict with each other, and they might let their 8 swords beliefs get in the way. And so there's this 5 swords happening, this sabotage, this disagreement, this not feeling understood by one another, and having to overcome this conflict. Here we have the 6 of Cups. Beautiful. So 6 of Cups is soulmate energy. That's soul recognition, where we recognize each other from a past life. Okay, but this is also knowing each other. And I feel like the wolf and this dreamer, they know each other. So this always talks about the person of the past. Okay, but I feel in this instance here, if you haven't met this person yet, which I do feel for a lot of you guys, you have, it's like this experience happens, and it's like once the work is done, you guys come together again, only when you're baggage sort of free here without resentments and anger, and release the 8 swords of limitation and the ego. Now, we see this beautiful mirror because I do feel this connection is highly mirroring and triggering to both so that they could deal with their 8 swords. This is the whole intention, is for these two to free themselves so they can have a beautiful new beginning and trust the divine and their instinct, not be attached to, it might go bad, and project that something might go sideways here. And as long as they keep projecting what will happen and might happen, then they're too hesitant to sort of trust and free fall. And if the wolf keeps sort of hanging on to what they experience with this dreamer as a reflection of their value, then they'll continue holding on to the baggage. And so they're needing to trust. And the 6 Cups talks about the inner child. And so there's a lot of stuff that these two already have within them, belief-wise, that is already sort of integrated into who they think they are, that needs to be undone. This is what's being shown to them. Healing that part of self. Okay, it's not necessarily the challenge with the 2, but the challenge with the 2 is brought up based on their past experiences. That is really magnified and very much mirrored to each other. Okay, so we have the 6 of Wands in reverse. Yeah, ego death here. I do feel this one poking out. This is the 7 of Swords, and it's in reverse. That's all what we've been talking about, you guys. Yeah, King of Cups in reverse. And so we have Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces here. And at the bottom of the deck, we have the 9 of Pentacles, self. So, beautiful angels. It's really so much of what we channeled here. This connection is really about self-confidence, standing with self in a position where we could trust, blindly following our intuition and the divine without fear, without any sort of ulterior shadows or 8 swords of thoughts that keeps us still with one foot in the old world just in case. Or it's all about the ego death, okay? And the ego can only sort of be alive when we feed the mask and we're not humble and we don't see our own self, our own shadow, and we project that someone else is the cause when they create a mirror of why things don't work, or why I feel devalued, or why I'm not this, that, or the other. And so there's a need for us to be very honest with self, with this 7 swords in reverse, and come out of the self-sabotage. Because both of these people are in self-sabotage as long as they have ego. And so this connection is all about the honesty. And only when they can come and be honest and drop the mask and the false self and the ego, then they can open up emotionally, like this King of Cups, which is the king that loves the deepest. It's mature love. It's experienced love. It's very deep, like this drowned king. But it is blocked because I do feel like this dreamer can't be emotionally available and deep as long as they keeping things superficial here, and as we talked about, because of their beliefs, which is all this ego. Okay, so this is what we see. So the first journey here is all about 9 Pentacles, which is building the strength within self, the confidence within self, a lot of transformation. Look, we have 2 butterflies here, blue butterflies. Okay, so there's the transformation of self, the confidence of self. And once we have confidence, then it's like we could trust our instincts and our intuition to be led without baggage down a road, not attached to outcome, completely sort of ego-free here, or at least not letting the fears of the past dictate our actions. You know, once we get in our own mind, we start to trip ourselves up. And Spirit's saying, no, don't sabotage, don't trip up, allow yourself to be available and emotionally feeling so that you can experience a new beginning. And I do feel like the potential here, because 0 is all about unlimited potential. There's an unlimited potential between these two that gets to be experienced when they finally go through this lesson. And who knows how long this takes, because shedding the ego isn't easy. Looking at ourselves and dropping the false mask and breaking through limiting thoughts is work, you know, but it's something that can be done as long as we're aware of this and not avoiding this and sort of still projecting and mirroring out there like that's the problem, you know, for 7 swords about it, trying to be sneaky, trying to create outcomes or strategize things where it's like, no, there's no need to strategize. There's no need to avoid. There's no need to lie to self or to upkeep any sort of charade or keep our cards close to the chest because that person's going to hurt me. And all of that stuff is all ego, and more ego. Okay. And it creates this 5 swords between each other because they can't fully trust each other when they're coming from the 7 swords energy and the 5 swords energy. Doesn't work in a partnership. This is what's mirroring to them. Divine is showing both these people. 5 swords, 7 swords does not work in connection. Masks, egos does not work in connection. Limiting thoughts does not work in connection. Being emotionally available is trusting the divine and the intuition to be there, exposed, vulnerable, only when we've built a 9 Pentacles, because there we know our own value. We have confidence in ourselves. We've developed this. We've cultivated it from the inside. We're not chasing it from someone else to give it to us, but we have to transform. We have to be here first. It takes time to be here first, or else why would we be in it with a divine counterpart? We're still being with Mickey Mouse relationships. All right, this isn't Mickey Mouse. This is very much a very deep, soulful connection of self-growth, okay? Being the highest version of both of these people and trusting themselves and the divine so that they could trust each other, okay? So this is your reading, pile number 2. I hope this helped you. I'll see you at the next one. Bye-bye. Hello, gorgeous angels. Pile number 3. You guys picked the whale, and it says communicate clearly. So lots of water energy coming through. Okay, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, and throat chakra coming through. So we're going to take a look at who is your divine counterpart. Okay, person A versus person B. So that you know whether this is your reading or not, you're going to resonate with either A or B being your energy and the other person being your counterpart or the one for you. Okay. Whatever spirit pulls through here. Now, I do ask that you go listen to the intro before you get your panties in a tizzy, because I am reading cards and energy, whatever pulls through here. Okay. So I don't know what spirit's going to show. If you don't like this person or want to hear about this not being the counterpart that you were wanting, then don't take it. Okay. You're here and I was here first. So let's take a look at person A and person B and see who this love of your life could be. Beautiful angel whale group. Let's see. Big love. Okay, so we have, I don't know how to say this word. It's a duende. I don't know how to say it, but let's read from the book here. Give me a sec. Sorry, I didn't read any of the others, but I like the back. The back description sort of gives us, where is this? Yeah, the duende's tail. Sometimes I see I don't know how to say this, duende, in the glimpse of a sparrow's eyes or in a painting or in the shade of a passing galaxy. But mostly I just feel it. I feel it out there, just beyond the edges of our furthest vision. Gold and Persian blue, wheels of ebony trimmed with steel cobwebs, rotating cogs, clockwork turning out sparks against an infinite sky. It tastes of brimstone and smells like moss and fireworks in the night. It sounds both silent and saxophone, and its almost touch against my skin is so exquisite that I can barely bring myself to purr. Oh my goodness, are you shaking in your boots? Are you shaking in your boots? All right, well, if you're not, then maybe your person is. Let's take a look. Wow, Kairos. Oh my goodness. So we have 76. Okay, Kairos. Wow. And we have exhibition, 22, place and activity. So 22 is a master number. This is all about divinely guided relationships. Okay, and healthy energetic boundaries. We have exhibition, workshop, opening, gallery, museum, showcase, artistic creation. Wow. Number 4, type 4, the individualist, emotional center between lack and abundance. Look at all those paintings. You and your person could certainly be creatives. Okay, maybe even a painter here, or maybe this person is. Wow, beautiful. What do we have? We have false indigo, and it says, immersion and intuition. When you reach the end of what you should know, you will be at the beginning of what you should sense. Khalil Gibran. So interesting, it's talking about the senses again. It's like beyond knowing and seeing and touching and feeling. It's an intuitive knowing. And the Kairos is all about this inner knowing when to act. It's about like divine timing and taking action and being sort of very in tune with the flow of the inner knowing. Wow, very intuitive, watery energy I'm getting here. Okay, and we have the reddening coming to life. 15, Capricorn energy, devil energy. And we have movement. So we see the wand, almost like magic. Okay, Aquarius with the star and the snake skin's all about healing. We see movement here. And we have veil of ignorance, number 2, ego level, being useful, need of recognition, rescuer syndrome, helper's pride, self-forgetfulness, veiled own needs, affective dependence, number 2, type 2, the helper, emotional center between giving and receiving. Okay, let's take a look at person B here, okay? We have the Mobius. Oh my goodness. This is the Ouroboros, which is all about the cycle of life. It's like being a reborn, kind of like Phoenix energy here. Death and rebirth, transformation, heavy Scorpio energy pulling through, lots of water. So we have 63, fundamental injury, stress level, separation, estrangement, divorce, loss, grief, breakup, and departure. Number 9, type 9, the peacemaker, instinctive center between forgetting and asserting one's self. Wow. Okay, so we have some Virgo and some Cancer energy. So pink rose, and it says grace and sweetness. The pursuit of perfection then is the pursuit of sweetness and light. Matthew Arnold. Well, pink roses for me is always about self-love, unconditional self-love. And we have the alchemical wedding. You guys, oh my goodness. So this is about union and balance with self and coming together with another perfectly balanced masculine, feminine energy. A perfect fit here with the alchemical wedding. Wow. And then we have forgive, which actually says, Lord give. because this person doesn't know cursive, but that's okay. We'll read it as forgive, which is interesting because I wasn't able to say this duende and now this lorgive, and this is about communication. So there might be two sort of languages that are like misunderstood potentially, but inner known or inner felt between these two potentially. Wow, that's deep. Okay, so we have spiritual practice 44, another master number. So this is integrity as a foundation, treating the earth as home and a temple, and it's also about manifestation and leadership. So pilgrimage, physical cleansing, active meditation, martial arts, dynamic yoga, initiatory journey, mindful breathing. Number 8, the challenger, instinctive center between strength and weakness. Wow, pilgrimage. This is like that number 9, which is hermit energy, is all about the pilgrimage. Inner journey. Okay, the box, number 44. Look at you guys, 44, 44. So 44 could be an age, okay, when you meet this person, or maybe a significant age here. But 4444 could be an angel number. If you guys want to leave in the comments what that means, I'd be curious to know. Okay, but we already read what 44 was as a master number. But 4s are all about structure, foundation, stability, planning. 4 is emperor energy. It's also death energy, which we were getting from the Mobius, Scorpio. Okay, so let me tap into these energies. Okay, wow. There's a lot of love here. It's so deep. It's very profound. Okay, felt by these two for sure. And I do feel like I'm going to call this the Kairos person because I don't know if I'm saying duende right. Kairos person versus the Mobius person, okay? So you could either be Kairos or Mobius. Sounds cool. So let's start with the Kairos person. The Kairos person is completely swept away energetically by this Mobius person. I don't even know if the Kairos person understands why that is. It's just happening through them. Okay, like it's like an immediate sort of felt energy that this Kairos person feels. And when they're engaged with the Mobius person, it's really almost like an act of divine where this Kairos person can't sort of use their logical mind to engage in a way that's like strategizing, planning. It's sort of like, it really feels like a faded experience where this Kairos almost feels like out of control in a way because they're just being guided by the divine. It really feels very divine here, okay? And I'm not trying to sell you any like fantasy, but this is exact energy that this is giving off because I do feel like being introduced to this Mobius person has awoken something within this Kairos person that's been dormant. And it's like the blood of life here that allows the Kairos person to move and heal and dream of magic and fantasy for themselves. Because I do feel like this Kairos person could have been somebody who might have been at some point. I don't see it here so much as reddening would mean coming to life. So there was something dead with the Kairos person, you know, and it could have been something that needed healing or needed like to be touched. And it's almost really like this magic wand because I feel like they were really touched by magic. They were really awestruck and inspired by the Mobius person energetically. I don't know what the Mobius person says or does so much as I know it's inner felt by this Kairos person. And I do feel like this Kairos person is like in a world of awe and almost loses their, like I said, ability to be mindful in a way here that is only guided by the divine. So they're actions and their engagement with this Mobius person is really driven by what feels right, which is very foreign here and could be something that's very scary if we are just sort of led, because it might feel very like fantasy or very magical. And I do feel as though this Kairos wants to be automatically sort of in the Mobius's world at whatever sort of expense here, because I do feel like this Kairos person is sort of putting themselves, their 3D self, sort of on this back burner. And I feel like there's an obsession here with this devil energy. It's like a instant attachment and obsession with this Mobius person, because this feeling feels kind of like a drug almost, like where did it come from? And why is it making me feel so alive? And why does it feel so out of this world? And why is it so like magical and feels so much like I can't put words to this whole thing? And it's like, finally, like my life has begun in some way here, because I'm seeing this world that I've never been introduced to or experienced or felt ever before. That's quite profound, very deep, very big. Okay, but I think that this Kairos person can't quite communicate this to this Mobius, one, because it sounds so like fantasy-like, and it's like, what do you even say to put words to this feeling? And then how much is this is really even true? Because again, it's like this inner feeling that is overtaking this Kairos person that is sort of just calling the shots. And so I feel like this Kairos person wants to be of service to this Mobius person, and it's almost at any expense. It's like, wow, this feels like a drug. This feels really good. This feels like something they can't explain and put into words. And I do feel like it could really be scary if this Mobius person is sort of an untrustworthy person, right? Because it's like, how could someone bring me to life in this way? And I do feel like whatever creative abilities this Kairos person had within them that was dormant is coming to life. And so it could be that this Kairos person goes on a binge of creating art or something based on their feeling for this Mobius person, like a bunch of art or a bunch of music or a bunch of, I don't know, something, because I do feel this Kairos is creative, but it is really like this Mobius is their muse. And there's this inspiration to do this, whatever this sort of thing is. But I do feel like there's an instant attachment to this Mobius person in a very strong, obsessive sort of way, and felt very deeply and understood by this Kairos person as something that's felt, but not capable of explaining. Okay, and I do feel like this Kairos has to go through a healing process within themselves, because I do feel like until they met this Mobius person, there might have been something that was kind of dormant within them in order to get them to write that book or sing that song or dance the dance or move out of their environment. And that's why it's very profound here. But this Kairos person doesn't know, like, for certain anything, because it's sort of all in divine timing. And it's like they're just sort of moving with the waves, So it could be very sort of scary here. It feels very dreamy. And it could throw them completely upside down here. Now, let's take a look at the Mobius. We might come back to this Kairos because I feel like maybe there's something more here. But this Mobius person, I do feel like goes through a metamorphosis here. A mega metamorphosis. Okay, and they've experienced some form of loss. So they might have gone through a divorce, but I do feel like it doesn't have to be so much as it is a loss that they're mourning and having to experience grief, a deep, profound grief, loss that changes this person. Okay, and I feel like this person is working through finding balance, harmony, self-love, and really having to rise above any of the grief and the pain and the sadness and their experience in order for them to accept truths and see the light of who they truly are here. So I do feel like this person could be highly spiritual. Okay. When the Kairos person meets this person, and if they don't say that they're spiritual, it's like they're giving off this sort of spiritual energy because they're having to connect to peace within themselves to overcome this loss or this grief. Okay, but I feel like this Mobius person, and as a way to protect themselves, sort of shut themselves out. And they shut themselves out because they don't feel ready. They don't feel healed. They don't feel like they've overcome what they were needing to in order for them to be out there. But they feel like this Kairos person is a perfect match for them. They know it almost instantly. It's like, if I were ready, if I was in a position to build something here, it would be with this Kairos. But this Mobius person, like I said, is sort of really withheld in all of these sort of walls that were built around them in order to protect them while they work through this grief and work through what they need to in order to heal and be reborn. And I do feel like they're going through a rebirth here. And I don't know how long this process takes, but this rebirth would require them to find balance and harmony and self-love before they can contribute and show up for Kairos. But I feel the Kairos sees this beautiful light and is really pulled by the Mobius's energy here, which feels very healing and soothing. But to the Mobius person, they are still having to sort through what they experienced as the separation. Now, this person, I feel like through that loss, whatever it was, and I don't know what form it came from, it's like this person might have felt detached from themselves. And I feel like this Mobius person was having to come back to self and see self from a holistic sort of point, because they felt very fragmented. And so they might not even remember their loss if this is someone who might have come into this world fragmented based on a past life, based on maybe an experience as a child, or like I said, for some of them, they have experienced a divorce or a loss or a breakup here, or a grieving of a death of a partner. It feels more like a grieving death of a partner, very profound here, because it's not just a divorce. Now I say just a divorce. We all take it differently, right? But I feel like there's grieving here, like a very deep sort of grieving, like this person lost themselves. They might have lost themselves, like a big part of who they thought they were. You know, they might have lost their home, their identity, their job, and the person they love, or like been fragmented and couldn't find themselves. And so it's like, I can't find myself or be put together. And so I'll wall myself off here. And I feel like whatever world they did have was their practice to give them some form of peace here. But I do feel like it was very limited and restricting, and it was like a defense mechanism to keep them protected. But I do feel like there's a lot of need for this physical cleansing, because I do feel like there's a lot here in regards to this person maybe falling apart in some capacity, like spiritually, emotionally, and physically. And I feel like maybe they really attached to their spiritual, but their physical might be very fragmented, and their world might be a little upside down. And so it's like, I don't have order. I don't have structure for myself yet. So they might feel a little bit not in a position to engage with Kairos because they don't feel completely reborn already. And it's like, I have to rebuild myself, or I have to take care of certain parts of me. And so I do feel there's like their physical world isn't stable or set up in some capacity here. And I do feel like they are experiencing getting to know themselves after this loss from a very deep sort of exploration. Because I do feel like they were called to go inwards and do this whole thing. And so maybe the Kairos feels a little bit shut out in some capacity, because I do feel like the Mobius on purpose sort of has this wall and has this need for inner exploration and understanding and inner balance here. Yeah. But the light of the Kairos is felt. The union these two can have is felt. The harmony in which these two could bring to each other is certainly felt here by Mobius. But I feel like the Mobius person, like I said, is really understanding that they need to overcome this pain or this loss or this sort of thing in order to be in a position to be available to the Kairos. So I don't know if this Kairos meets this Mobius when they're sort of out of their element, because I feel like they might be a traveler or like seeming almost like, I don't know why vagabond is coming in, but this is pilgrimage. So it's almost like they're unattached to this world in some way. They're sort of dreamy with their spirituality in some other sort of world. And it keeps them sort of safe. But I feel like this Mobius person is being called to deal with their 3D. And it might be easier for them to escape, you know, until they find their bearings or whatever here and overcome this loss or this grief. And so this is sort of the space that they're in. And I don't know if it was like a sudden sort of loss here, but it definitely required this person to become someone different and really work on their own self-love here. So let's take a look what Spirit wants to talk about this connection then that I'm missing. Spirit yeah, and I feel like because this whale's coming through again with communicate clearly, it's like this Mobius can't really explain this process to the Kairos for whatever reason. Like, oh, I have this deep, profound loss and I'm like being reborn and I'm like, you know, like shutting things out here and I'm only in my like spiritual body right now and physically I'm incapable of being like a provider or coming to the table equally to show up. I need the washroom, you guys. I'll be right back, okay? Give me a sec. Okay, let's take a look at what Spirit wants to communicate regarding the Kairos and the Mobius. Spirit, clear and concise message for the greatest and highest good of this connection. What am I missing regarding these two? Pile number 2. No, I'm sorry. Not pile 2. Pile 3. And their person who they're meant to be with here. Pile 3 and the person they're meant to be with here. What am I missing regarding this dynamic? Clear and concise message for the greatest and highest good of this connection. Ace of Cups. Self-love. Being able to fill one's own cup. Because I do feel like this Kairos is sort of at the mercy, it feels at the mercy of this Mobius to do whatever. But they're needing to fill their own cup here. Love themselves. And the Mobius certainly is on a journey of self-love here, feeling very fragmented. So emotional new beginning with this Ace of Cups. We have the Page of Cups in reverse. So yeah, I do feel like there is a period where this Mobius is unable to pursue this connection based on where they're at the point in time when this Kairos person enters their world. But this is all about divine timing. And so I feel like this Kairos is needing to trust in the divine timing. Queen of Pentacles. Beautiful. Virgo, Taurus, Capricorn energy. It's all about being self-reliant. Let's pull some more here. Why is this Ace of Cups here? Spirit, why is the Ace of Cups here? we have the Two of Wands in reverse. Why is this Page of Cups in reverse here? Very beautiful creative energy, I feel, with these two. So this is the Star in reverse, Aquarius energy. And finally, why is this Queen of Pentacles here? The Magician, more Virgo energy, and Gemini. And we have the Emperor, wow, and the Hangman, Aries and Pisces. So, okay, I feel like this Kairos is more in a ready position to be available to give a cup and to have a new beginning. But this Mobius is not ready. And I do feel like the Kairos might lose hope and might give up on sort of a future with this Mobius, because I do feel like the Mobius person is having to come into their own and able for them to be available. I think they know that they're not in a position to do this and feel like they don't have the tools or the self-empowerment here to be successful. And so this Kairos person has to rely on their own ability to fulfill themselves, to stand on their own, to confidently sort of be their own keeper while this Mobius person works through challenges. And I do feel like there's an aspect here of them working through trusting themselves to be okay with showing up in a connection again. Because I do feel like it could definitely be that this Mobius person feels like, I don't know that I'd be experienced enough here based on what they've experienced or what they know of love to be. That's like they lost hope in themselves of ever having a future that could be, you know, like a fairy tale. It's like, why would I believe in the fairy tale? Why would I think this could be for me when I feel like I'm incapable? Because there's almost like giving up, not going down this connection, seeing it not as a potential for them. It's like, yeah, this isn't really going to be successful for me, so why would I attempt it? It's almost like a self-defeating understanding that it's not for them, you know? And so I feel like they're having to work through seeing things from a different perspective in regards to them being capable of experiencing a lot of joy and love and light and opening their heart space again, and not be so, woe is me, it's not going to work, so I might as well not even explore this, because they feel they don't have the tools capable of manifesting much, especially because this Kairos person comes in as someone of high value. And it's like knowing there's a potential to experience with the Kairos and then sort of leaving it on the table. It could be very hurting for this Kairos person. And this Kairos person's like, you know, like, I feel very ready to serve with this Queen of Pentacles energy. It's a beautiful energy, but it is only welcomed as much as this Mobius person is open and available. I do feel like when this Mobius person is ready, because I do feel like this Mobius person has a change of perspective, sees where they were sort of cutting themselves short of opportunity, sees the potential future vision of this Kairos being a dream come true for them, that they have to come in, and I do feel they feel very bad. There's like a level of having to forgive the fact that they might have overseen this potential, or like didn't believe in themselves to be able to provide and overcome this, because I feel like there's a lot of having to overcome self-obstacle and let self out of this box and trust self and feel empowered and capable and worthy and all of this stuff that I feel comes over time. And I do feel they feel bad because the Kairos seemed to be ready, giving, you know, but almost at the mercy of losing themselves, because there was this like forgetfulness and this affective dependence, veiled own needs, need of recognition. It's like they wanted this Mobius to be accepting and contributing for them to build and create together. But the Mobius was just not at the right place at the right sort of time to be able to provide. And this could be very discouraging. So I do feel like Spirit's really talking about there being sort of a shift once the Mobius person sits with a deeper understanding of what's sort of transpired here, which might be after a disconnect or a loss, or when there seems like there's no hope here, and in the divine timing to sort of arrange that these two come together. And it might be like regenerating the trust again, because I feel like this Kairos person definitely could be regenerated again to earn their trust in this Mobius if for whatever reason they lose hope in the vision of what could be for these two, because they feel like they didn't get pursued, or that they weren't an option here for this Mobius person, which didn't feel very good, especially with this intensity that this Kairos person was feeling, only to hit up against the wall here, But I do feel like this Mobius person has a mindset that's like, unless I could be provider, supporter, and a knower here of everything sort of being in my fingertips of doing, I don't explore it. I just sort of chalk it up to not being ready or not being capable, or the loss that I had, because they might still be carrying the loss that they had as sort of their responsibility in some way. So they cut themselves off from experience, But I do feel they overcome this. And I don't know when, but I do feel like it gives these two a chance at a new beginning here. But trust might have to be re-earned. But I do feel like there is a beautiful harmony between these two, and they very much complement each other, because I feel like wherever one's weakness is, the other one has strength. And I do feel like once they both come together on the common goal, that they are unstoppable here. We have the Queen of Pentacles and this Emperor energy. And so I feel like the Kairos is coming through as the Queen of Pentacles, because I feel it's a very service-orientated support for this Emperor. And the Emperor is a provider that wants to give to this Queen of Pentacles everything that could make this Queen of Pentacles feel safe and secure, or why even bother kind of thing. So this is what I see for these two beautiful angels. I hope this helped you, and I will see you at the next one. Bye-bye. Beautiful pile number 4. You guys picked the Turtle, Evoke Ancient Grounded Power, and the Dragonfly, Take New Directions. So let's see how this plays into this connection. So what are we looking at? We're looking at your divine counterparts, however Spirit pulls this through, the one you're sort of supposed to be aligned with here. Okay, now, if this comes through as somebody that you don't want to align with, then don't take the message. Go listen to the intro. I'm not going to change this, okay? I'm just going to read what comes through here. And since you're the one coming here, it's up to you to go elsewhere if you don't like what you see. Okay, so let's take a look at who person A is, and then we'll look at person B, and you'll have to resonate with either A or B for this to be your pile. If you don't resonate with either side being your energy, then this most likely will not be your reading, okay, or your pile. So let's take a look. So we have midwife. Oh my goodness. It's a little baby there. Midwife. Beautiful energy. And we have the fault line, 49. And we have the distance, 68. Relationship trap, stress level, preserving your own space, fear of intrusion, withdrawal, staying away, personal protection, keep at arm's length. Number 5, type 5, the observer thinking center between interior and exterior. And we have the Venus mellow flower here. It says, delicate, fleeting beauty. When life is not coming up roses, look to the weeds and find the beauty hidden within them. Wow, that's beautiful. And we have the mystical sister, number 50. And we have fire, which says liar because this person doesn't know they're cursive. This one gives me 4 wands energy because we have 4 matches. Okay, fire. So we have Aries, Leo, Sagittarius energy pulling through. And we have 21, conscious awakening, ego level, public image, need to be admired, fear of failing, shallowness, self-sacrifice, external validation, compulsion to success. Type 3, the achiever, emotional center between appearing and authenticity. And we have 87, mystical experience, growth level, apparition, vision of guardian angels, synchronicities, inner strength, inner guidance, divine protection, absolute confidence. Number 6, type 6, the loyalist, thinking center between mistrust and trust. Okay, let's get into what person B is about. So we have the sage, the little monkey here. Okay, and then we have the threshold, number 45. And we have 38 with neutral event, ego level, surprise, present, chance, favor, gift, service, donation. Number 2, type 2, the helper, emotional center between giving and receiving. And we have 99, relational quality, growth level, self-assertiveness, respect one's own limits, determination, self-presence, decisiveness, personal power, personal competencies. Type 9, the peacemaker, instinctive center between forgetting and asserting oneself. Number 9. Okay, and then we have the peony. It says prosperity and compassion. Prosperity depends more on wanting what you have than on having what you want. Beautiful. And we have the lightning here with number 13, Scorpio energy here. And we have truth. And we have 27, conscious awakening, ego level, avoidance, self-forgetfulness tendencies, lack of self-expression, passivity, procrastination, unused potential, fear of confrontation. Type 9, the peacemaker, instinctive center between forgetting and asserting one's self-assertiveness. Okay, let me take a look at person A first, and then I'll look at person B here so I could channel what's going on here. No, I don't want that covered. Let's do it like that. Can you guys see? Yes. Okay. Okay. Fascinating. These two are very similar because I feel like they've experienced disappointment and handle it in however ways that they handle it. Now, A, I'm going to call midwife, and B, I'm going to call the sage. Okay, so either you're going to be the midwife or the sage. I'm not talking genders at all, just energy. Okay, and if you don't resonate with either side being you, then this isn't your pile. So with the midwife here, I feel like the midwife experiences disappointment, most likely in connection. Maybe there's been nobody really worthy of this midwife trusting or feeling like they're welcome or loved or supported in some way, because I do feel like this midwife is always a provider and has provided potentially more than the midwife's been able to receive. And I do feel like this midwife is somebody who's very much loved and appreciated and seen by a lot of people. So you would think that this midwife would have successful connection. But I feel like this midwife is lonely because I feel like the midwife as was sort of like, always the bridesmaid, never the bride type energy, or like, maybe even like setting an example here, but never really being fulfilled or fully like being able to attain what it is that this midwife would deserve in a connection here. I feel like this midwife gets sort of almost this energy of like not believing that there could be someone out there for this midwife person to experience, because of the fact that what they've seen and experienced is maybe a series of disappointing people, or maybe a community of people where they just see failures of relationships in some way. And so it's like this midwife is not defensive by any means, but it's like, I'd rather focus on my own self and like not allow people to come impede on my peace, and sort of keep an energy of like people at a distance, because it helps to allow this midwife to sort of focus on the other things that this midwife is sort of involved with here. Because I do feel like this midwife is someone who is compassionate, giving, caring, supportive of a lot of people. So I don't know if they're in the public eye here, or they have like a community of people, or like a leadership type role. A lot of people depend on this person to be like a giver, a provider. They might have like an established family already, maybe children. They could be work in the healthcare. They could literally be a midwife. Okay. But I do feel like this energy is a very strong energy of an example, because I do feel like this midwife has gone through transforming. I do feel a feminine energy here, by the way, very strong, transforming herself to the highest level of divine feminine, which is, I will protect what's sacred. I have had to sort of accept what hasn't worked in my world and build myself up in some capacity. I feel like the midwife feels almost like, like if they were to engage in a connection, like it would have to be very, very solid, and like they'd have to be sold on it. And it's like they don't see how most of the people that they've experienced or connections has started sort of on the wrong foot. And it's like, I don't want to have to build something, it's like they want to know from the get-go that whoever they're investing in is the right person. None of this sort of trying to manipulate energies or be different or have to heal people or have to like build them or cultivate them into perfection, so to speak, or be doable. This midwife's like, no, I know my value and I know who I'll let into my world. And it's not going to be to everyone and anyone, because they're going to have to match my inner light and my inner strength. And I'll know when I see it, because I do feel like this midwife is very into their spiritual practices, very much in tune with their dreams, signs, symbols, synchronicities, the divine language that helps them to sort of see beyond the veil, which will allow them to know when the right person sort of comes in. But it's like, there is no right person here, and everyone seems to be sort of, like out to hurt others, or like damaged, or like projecting, or like needing to be supported, or like healthed back to health, or nursed back to health, I should say. And it's like, I don't think this midwife wants a project like this at all. And if she's had projects like this, she's learned that through the hard way that she's worthy of a lot more. And so she has a true inner strength based on her experience of the past and disappointments of the past. But there is a cautiousness here now because of her experience, and maybe not falling right away to just trust anyone and anything. So there's this boundaried approach she's taking, and she's identifying that there's a lot of people out there that sort of all seem damaged in some way, And I don't feel as though she's projecting. I feel like she's seeing through the veil of like the hurt people and like the sea of people that are just out there seemingly not as healed or at her level or done as much work as maybe she has in order to really like cultivate this inner strength and this spiritual understanding that she has. And so she's choosing her spirituality, and she's choosing to really lean into the truth of who she is and the power of what she wants here. Yeah. I don't feel she wants a pet project here in any sort of capacity. And I think she's had to learn, like I said, the hard way, and maybe like detach or walk away or give up on connections that it might have been very hard for her to accept that are not aligned with her, And so she doesn't want to be tricked, and she wants to see through people's shenanigans and challenges before she invests. So this is a delicate game of like, how much do I open up and how much do I give of myself so that I could see people for who they are before I become fully invested, because I don't think she wants to experience loss and suffering and disappointment. And she wants a balanced union, and she wants to know. So this is her energy. And I feel like this is her energy before she meets this person. Okay, so who is this sage person here? Let me sit with the sage for a little bit here. It's so interesting. These two are complete opposite energies, self-assertiveness and avoidance. Like we have procrastination here and we have decisiveness, personal power, passivity. So what's going on here? The sage person also comes from experience that left them feeling not understood or loved. This sage person also is highly intellectual when it comes to inner experience of knowing. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're book smart and intelligent that way, but it's like an old soul that has experienced a lot of lessons that have made them understand themselves from a deeper level. I feel there is a spiritual sense to this person, but I also feel there's this edge of like knowing maybe that they know more than other people. I don't think it's coming from like a conceited place either. Just like I don't think that this midwife was sort of projecting that people are all damaged. Like the sage is like, oh, I could see through people's shadow, and like when people say certain things, and it's like the sage is sort of witty about it. It's like they could say things that sort of go above people's head. They're not at the level of the sage. Okay. And so I feel like when these two sort of come together, it's like they're understood at a very high level of intellect and inner knowing of experience. But I do feel it comes from both having to experience the darkness and feeling maybe unloved here. And so I do feel like the sage person here, if they were asked about a past sort of life that they had, they've come a very long way. They've had to change and shed an older version of them that is completely opposite and different than how they are, that even this midwife wouldn't believe to be true of this sage, because I feel like the sage person might have lacked trust in their own ability to be confident with their own decision making, their own voice, their own trust with how they navigate, that they might have gave away their power to other people. And when the midwife meets the sage, it's like knowing how much power this sage person has. It's like unfathomable that this sage person would ever feel uneasy or unworthy or like anything but this strong, confident energy, because the sage is giving strong confidence, but not cocky and not arrogant. It's like a confidence in an inner knowing because they've experienced the opposite world here. And so I do feel like this sage person is the type of person here that might seem a little bit closed off or aloof, because they're wanting people to unfold in front of them so that they know sort of the truth of how people are. So they sort of play it coy in some way. It's like, I'm not going to reveal all my chips, so to speak. And it's not really game playing so much as it is they've been in the dark. They've been with people who try to manipulate them, and they've been maybe sort of giving people the benefit of the doubt and then sort of putting all their cards on the table and then being used, or being like people would use that as manipulating tactics to control the sage in some way. I feel like the sage has learned and has transformed that about themselves. And I feel like the sage is at a point where they're not seeing any potential at all in their world. It's like they've given up. And so there's that edge that I was talking about. Like they've already succumbed to the fact that there is no one really at their level, so to speak, or that they're going to meet someone that's like speaks the same language as them. And so they've just succumbed to the fact that this is going to be their new normal, is just sort of engage in the world here as themselves, solo or independent. But little do they know that the divine is sort of bringing them towards a connection full of passion and fire, because I feel like this sage is so used to being sort of cold and experiencing other people where it's kind of shallow. It's not really fulfilling. That when they finally meet this midwife, it's like this flame that is very intense and can't be denied. And it's like the passion is ignited here. And it's so intense and instant, or it's like unexpected and unseen. It's like, it's definitely by surprise that this encounter, like, whoa, like, who are you? And like, I wasn't expecting this, like, inferno, but I do feel like this mystical sister is like, or sorry, this midwife, like this mystical sister says, is like the guiding light here, because energetically this midwife is very strong as a sort of beacon of light. And the sage is really drawn by this and is sort of immersed in this light. And so I do feel like this sage person isn't really fully reborn until they connect with the midwife. So although they shed the past version of who they are, they're sort of sitting in the void of no man's land, kind of in this state of, I don't want to say it's bitter, but it's an energy of they gave up. They gave up that there would be someone for them, or that there are people here that would be enjoyable. And they've already succumbed to that fact. But it's like they are reborn with this midwife entering their life. It's like a spark of life here that allows them to be trusting in love again, trusting in passion again, and trusting that there's more here, and there's blessings and there's things to be gifted to them, because they do feel like this midwife is a gift to them, even if this midwife is giving to them or not at the time when they meet. It's like they feel very blessed, and they feel like they've been handed a gift from the divine to have this chance and this reborn again sort of energy that allows them to trust and love. I feel like there's an instant trust in the midwife that this sage person has, because remember I was talking about they have gone through shoddy people who maybe use their weaknesses, or like they gave their trust easily. It's like this midwife instantly pulls some form of like ability for the sage to trust in this midwife instantly. And so that's very different, because the sage has been so sort of, again, like sort of thinking that it was hopeless, or that they wouldn't find anyone that they could trust, or that they could give their full attention to, or be pulled by ever again. And so I don't feel that there is resistance, although I do feel like this sage person isn't quite sure how to approach the midwife. And they don't want to scare the midwife, because I think the sage is really in tune with the midwife's sort of past experience being disappointing or whatever, that the sage is like, I want to respect this midwife, and I don't want to be too assertive, but I also don't know how to do this. And so I think that the sage takes some time to build their courage. So they do procrastinate a little bit here, which is unlike them, because I feel like they were very confident in this newfound energy that they've been sitting in for some time. And it's like they have to really review, because I think at one point they decided they were going to be single or alone. And they sat there kind of accepting this, being comfortable in that thought, and now having to sort of toy with the idea of changing course and being like, what does it mean to be in a connection here and be reborn into a connection that I never thought I was going to stumble across here? But they can't deny it, and they can't sort of resist and suppress this thing. But I think they try to not engage right away, because they don't want to scare this off, and they want to make sure that they're absolutely seeing what they see, because it seems almost unbelievable. And it seems almost like, why is the divine bringing this into my world right now? Is this something I can trust? But there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of love, there's a lot of seeing this midwife instantly. So let's see some more, because I'm not really seeing how the midwife engages with the sage so much as I see how the sage is impacted by the midwife. But I do feel like this midwife is really in tune with, like I said, the inner divine here, to speak to this midwife in regards to what's right, and to take action based on signs, symbols, synchronicities, dreams, and inner guidance. But I don't think that the midwife is sort of pulled to the sage like instantly. I feel like the midwife is pulling the sage. Like the midwife is sort of leading the trail here, if I will. And it feels like the sage is following. So I do feel like the sage has to earn the midwife's trust and make the midwife see, because I don't think the midwife's going to see right away what this connection is instantly. Yeah. So let's see. Spirit, clear and concise message regarding this connection for pile 4. What am I missing regarding this dynamic between pile 4 and their person? Clear and concise message for the greatest and highest good of pile 4. Please protect me and the viewer as I channel this message for the greatest and highest good of pile 4. What am I missing here? So we have the lovers in reverse. Yeah, they both had like failed attempts previous to meeting each other here, Gemini energy. And we have the Emperor in reverse, Aries energy, Gemini energy, the Sun, Leo energy. Oh my goodness, look, major, major, major. And we have the Wheel of Fortune, fated, destined, 4 major arcanas. And we have the 3 of Pentacles working together, 5 of Cups, and the Hermit in reverse, a Virgo energy. And at the bottom of the deck, we have the King of Pentacles. And under the King of Pentacles, we have the Ace of Pentacles. And under that, we have the Tower, which is really feeling from this like threshold energy and this lightning. So this midwife has a real huge impact on this sage's world. I feel like the sage might have been in an energy, like I said, that's just sort of succumbed to the fact that they'd be alone in some capacity, but that there is an energy here of them being able to see like a long-term stable future for themselves with this midwife and creating something together that they couldn't create on their own. But I do feel like Spirit's really talking about how the divine intervenes here with bringing this warmth. It's almost like a surprise to these both to bring this warmth to like divinely guide these two to each other just when they sort of gave up and almost felt like they weren't in control or capable of creating a union for themselves because it's in the hands of the divine. And I feel like through all this disappointment and this past loss and really just being disappointed by other people and connection here that hasn't been able to provide or hasn't felt like the one, it's like through this, they're now sort of brought together by that mutual sort of world that they understand that is disappointed in connection and disappointed in humanity, if you will. Like it seems like they almost bond over this, like, is there anyone else that can connect to how soulfully and deep I feel and meet me at my level of understanding? And I do feel these two can, because I do feel like these two have done the work with this Hermit in reverse. It's like they understand themselves very deeply. Is that it's almost like who else understands themselves as deeply as I sort of understand myself. And the more deep we understand ourselves, the more we see how other people might be detached or disconnected. And so it makes this gap even bigger between us and other people, because it's like, I don't want to be with someone who's still maybe in shadow or ego or incapable of building something with me and knows themselves as well as I know myself. And so it becomes very lonely and disappointing when all we see is a whole bunch of like failed things, you know? So I feel like they both experience this failure, and it's both like a shock, a surprise encounter, a blessing, least expected by these two to come together right when they sort of feel like there's no way to rebuild, or you know, like I'm just going to be alone, or I'm just going to build my own empire. I'm just going to stick to my secure world and my security. And I do feel like these two can work together because we see the Three Pentacles here. And so they could certainly meet at like a work event, or this could be in the same field, because we were seeing this public image. So this midwife could certainly deal with dealing with the public here. However, these two encounter each other, but I do feel there's a genuine desire, because there is an understanding that they can work together and create something together that's absolutely beautiful and understood by them, you know. And it's like a turn of events, because it does seem like they both have to sort of hit their rock bottom or go through this like period before this tower strikes and the universe says, ha ha ha, here you go. Yeah, look, 8 Pentacles, 3 Pentacles. So these two are meant to build something together. They work very well together, and they both have done the work on self. And so I think they create something together here that's absolutely beautiful when they come together, that provides a lot of light to the world. Yeah, so this is what I see. Pile number 4. This is your reading. I hope this helped you, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye-bye.